The news cycle is selling a deal as the end of the war, suggesting that lifting sanctions will buy peace in exchange for Iran giving up its nuclear program. This narrative suggests we are witnessing a diplomatic breakthrough. But under realpolitik analysis, this logic is fundamentally flawed. Conceding leverage now to stop immediate violence creates an instant power vacuum. It does not resolve Tehran's core strategic imperative, regime survival. Instead of ending the conflict, it rewards the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps with billions in capital, just as they pivot from defense to regional dominance. The result isn't peace. It is a strengthened adversary better positioned to fill global voids left by American retrenchment while competitors like China and Russia move into place. To understand why this proposed framework fails, we must look at the asymmetry of incentives driving both sides. Current analysis indicates the conflict has shifted from military capability clashes to political endurance. For Washington, war is a costly distraction best avoided if oil prices stabilize. The administration fears even limited Iranian successes in killing American ground troops triggering domestic backlash and forcing an exit. However, for Tehran, specifically the IRGC leadership, survival is existential. They believe they can outlast American pressure by leveraging their ability to disrupt global energy flows via the Strait of Hormuz. This creates a trap where concessions risk creating a power vacuum rather than ending hostilities. The United States views stability as a tactical pause. Iran views it as validation that brinkmanship works. The proposed framework, announced in June 2026, offers a 60-day ceasefire and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for sanctions relief. This timeline is insufficient to dismantle the proxy networks or address the nuclear infrastructure that underpins Tehran's regional influence. The deal assumes that if you stop the fighting for 2 months, the underlying tensions will cool down. But this ignores how Iranian leadership operates on a strategy of constructive ambiguity. They utilize reversible violations of previous agreements as leverage against a perceived siege. Providing relief without structural changes allows them to reset their economic base and rearm proxies before the next crisis cycle begins. The 60-day illusion creates a false sense of security that masks the fact that Tehran is simply regaining its footing after 100 days of war, using that time not for peace but for consolidation. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This dynamic becomes even more dangerous when we consider the regional instability outside of bilateral US-Iran negotiations. A deal between Washington and Tehran does not bind non-state actors who reject diplomatic constraints entirely. Hezbollah has already rejected ceasefires on paper, deploying advanced fiber-optic drones immune to jamming that render current containment strategies obsolete. In a single Israeli strike in June 2026, 3 Lebanese soldiers were killed, including 1 general, proving the volatility remains high regardless of any bilateral agreement. These proxies operate with their own strategic imperatives that often diverge from Tehran's immediate tactical needs for regime survival. If Iran gains financial liquidity and political capital to expand its influence across the Middle East without fear of economic collapse, these groups will continue to press forward. The deal fails to resolve the core security dilemma in Lebanon and Syria because it treats a regional web of conflict as a bilateral transaction between 2 capitals that cannot control their own shadow armies. The strategic cost of this approach is a transfer of U.S. leverage into Iranian capacity building. When leaders announce sanctions relief, they are often describing a tactical pause that buys time for one side to regroup rather than a strategic resolution. For Tehran, war is existential and essential for survival. For Washington, it is a costly distraction best forgotten once prices at the pump stabilize. This divergence means that any deal reached without addressing the structural threat of regime survival will be viewed by Iran as a victory in itself. They gain the ability to fund their proxy networks more effectively while American attention shifts elsewhere. The vacuum created is not just empty space, it is an opportunity for competitors like Russia and China to step in, offering economic alternatives that further entrench Tehran's position against Western pressure. We are seeing the immediate consequences of this miscalculation already. A single Iranian drone attack on Kuwait International Airport caused one death, demonstrating that even with a ceasefire framework, kinetic threats persist without being neutralized by diplomatic gestures. The United States strategy has shifted from regime change to maritime coercion, but this creates a trap where concessions risk creating a power vacuum rather than ending hostilities. By offering relief now, we are effectively telling the IRGC that their calculus of survival and expansion is correct. They do not need to compromise on nuclear infrastructure or proxy operations because they have secured enough resources to weather any further pressure for years. The deal does not end the war. It simply changes who holds the cards and at what price. The question we must ask ourselves is whether a temporary cessation of hostilities that leaves the underlying power dynamics intact constitutes true peace or merely a delay in an inevitable confrontation. If viewers assume sanctions relief equals peace, they miss the immediate consequence. Iran gains the financial liquidity to expand its influence while U.S. leverage evaporates. This creates a long-term strategic disadvantage where the United States finds itself negotiating from a position of weakness after having spent political capital on a deal that failed to alter the fundamental behavior of the adversary. The war continues in new forms, fueled by resources we just gave away and supported by allies who see American reliability as conditional rather than absolute. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.